Keith Grinke with Top of My News here with Eric O'Keefe. Eric all around the Montreal fight scene. We're here today in Fort McMurray for Prestige MMA. He's going to be cornering his student, David Lafond. Talk about David and his career up to now.
Well, David Lafond, I've been with him for, I would say, 5 or 6 years now. I was with him through his amateur career. He did really well in amateurs in Quebec, and he's been a pro now for about a year and a half. And David's the type of guy, his first fight, he was supposed to fight this beginner also, and the guy got injured, and a week out of the fight they proposed us Jason Sago, who's, most people in Canada know who Jason Sago is, undefeated pro MMA guy, and he's very strong on the ground and very good Muay Thai practitioner. And Dave actually broke his nose in the first round. Dave took that fight against what we advised him because he really wanted to fight, and so that's the type of fighter Dave is. He lost that fight, got submitted in that fight in round 2, but he showed a lot of heart, determination, and second fight he got into a war with a guy from Steve Bossy's team, Charbonneau, and that was an awesome fight. He won that, and then his third fight he was doing really well against Kevin Marais from Steve Clavo's team, was leading on all the judges' cards. And then in round 3 he made a beginner's mistake and brought his opponent down on top of him and couldn't sweep him off, so he lost a close decision, split decision in that fight. So he's fought guys, he's 1-2 right now, hopefully 2-2 tonight, and he's fought guys that are, I think, combined 27-6. So for a guy that's 1-2, that's a pretty decent record.
So are you his manager as well?
I try to stay away from that DM word, but I do take care of David. He's the only guy that I still look out for his interest. But as I've always been pro bono manager because I never take a penny from these guys.
You're like his guidance counselor.
Yeah, I'm his coach, and I mean, out here I knew Sandy Bowman and Dwayne Lewis from MFC, having gone out there with Tom Watson, fighting in MFC a few years back, and I really liked these guys, and I told them, if ever you need guys on your show, give me a call. And Sandy gave me a call a few months ago, and Dave needed to get his record back on track because he's much better than what his record is, and Sandy's giving us the opportunity against a really tough opponent. But Dave is ready for this fight, and looking forward to the fight tonight.
Yeah, and how do you balance that, as a coach and guidance counselor, trainer? You got some guys at TriStar that have started off very slowly, fighting a 0-7 TJ Coletti when I think of Alex Garcia,
Yeah.
And you have David fighting, Jason Sago, who's a fantastic lightweight.
Well, David comes from my gym in Sherbrooke, where I used to own a gym in Sherbrooke, and so he was always my fighter. So when I came to coach at TriStar about 4 years ago, I brought David with me, and David started coming sparring on Saturdays. But he was still training during the week in Sherbrooke. Now he comes down for his training camps in Montreal, and he's actually used a lot with our pro fighters, guys fighting in the UFC and Bellator tournaments and so on and so forth. They use David a lot as a sparring partner, and that has made him grow as a fighter, and it has given him the opportunity to raise his game up and to believe in himself, where as before he just felt he was a sparring partner for these guys. He's actually doing really well against these guys in sparring, and so it gave him a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and not only David, we've seen you with other guys like Kong Watson. We've seen you with Francis Carmont, a number of tough guys in the UFC and around the world. Bama, how did you get involved with TriStar? How did you make the move from Sherbrooke?
It was a natural move for me. My strengths in MMA are more geared towards the fight plans and strategy and studying the opponents and studying our guys and weaknesses and octagon control, and that's more geared towards the pro game more so than the amateur game and teaching classes. I also had my own businesses that I need to take care of, so I had a limited time I could afford towards MMA, and with my friendship with George St. Pierre, he's the one that invited me to TriStar, and it just one thing led to another, and I would come to practice and point out a thing to a guy and point out a thing to another guy, and Firas as a hobby graciously opened the door for me to do a little more and a little more, and sometimes we have a lot of guys there, and Firas can't go to every fight And we also have other very fine coaches, Eamon Zahabi and Luis Sanios and Jake Miller and Jeremy Rubin and a bunch of other guys, but certainly opened the door for me to take these guys that maybe weren't getting as much attention because of the number of guys we have. And, you know, I take these guys to a certain level and they go to UFC and then they get the royal treatment.
You know, and not only with TriStar, you know, we've seen you on camera for a Montreal promotion, Ringside.
Yes.
And I believe you've taken a bigger step now. Like, you know, what's your involvement with Ringside?
I've been doing television for Ringside, color commentating for now. I think I started Ringside 7, and we've just done Ringside 13. And after Ringside 11, I believe. Well, actually, the last Ringside 13 was my first involvement in management. I'm director of operation in Ringside. I told Eric Champoux, who has done a fine job promoting Ringside up to now, but there were some things that were lacking in the promotion. We would hear comments. Darren Cruikshank, who had won the belt, immediately signed with a competitor after the belt, saying that he didn't feel he got proper treatment when he showed up to Montreal. And I think, in all fairness to Eric, I think that, you know, some of that was exaggerated, but he did have some valid points. And having traveled the world and participated in events in Asia and UFC in Europe and in America and Bellator and so on and so forth, I know the fighter's side of things, you know, what fighters expect, what they need when they get off that plane, if they need their per diem right away. You know, little details like that that maybe somebody that's not involved in MMA doesn't think it's as important as it is to a fighter that's cutting weight, that just needs 3 or 4 essential things, but he does need those things, and itineraries, to be where at what time, you know, not to rely on a phone call. So little things like that are very important for fighters, but, you know, maybe Eric came from a television background and didn't have all those little insights, and that's what I bring to the table, I believe.
Yeah, and the last Ringside was a scaled down show. You went to a club,
Yeah.
but pretty successful. You know, why don't you talk about that show and you know, the plan for Ringside in the future?
Well, the last show, our St. Patrick's Day beatdown, I love the concept, being Irish myself, and it was my first involvement in the show. As everybody knows, in Quebec, there's been a rivalry with another competitor, competing promotion that they're doing fairly well, and respectable company, and they have great fighters. And so we had to raise our game, and so we didn't want to overspend our budget. It was my first involvement in the company. I suggested to Eric we do a smaller show, but fill it up and get a really good ambiance in there, and try new things like getting our cut men involved in there and wrapping hands and, you know, fixing cuts. And we had a few things that we wanted to try out, and you want to make sure that we had a really good ambiance for that show, and it was a complete success for us. You know, we had a little mishap where one of the spotlights blew up during the Ricci fight, but I mean, stuff like that happens once in a while, and it makes it interesting for guys like you to talk about. So
yeah, and well, 2 guys on there, Paul Chang and Starsenkov, pardon me, 2 heavyweights. Is this now the focus of your company? We see a couple Facebook things on it and that. You know,
Vlad Starsenkov, he was at TriStar before. He moved camps. He went to Sherbetov in Laval. Sherbetov is a great school in Laval. Boris and his brother do a great job training guys there. And you know, Vlad is Russian, and these guys are Russian, and they had a great chemistry. And Vlad is somebody that Ringside really likes. He's a really tough. He's a black belt in judo. He does some sambo, and very serious athlete. Trains very hard. True professional. So it was a natural thing. We didn't really look for the big guys. I mean, he was there, available to us. Boris called us, says, "Let's get this guy fighting." And, you know, people like him in Montreal. A lot of people show up, and, you know, fans like the big guys. I mean, big guys create knockouts often, and so, yeah, it was a natural for us. Paul Chang was a bit of a fluke. Dennis Kang, who trains with us at TriStar, knew Paul Chang, had trained him a little bit, and Paul Chang is a student of one of Dennis Kang's students. And we needed a heavyweight for Eric Barak, who's a boxer, and that, you know, Eric had signed with the promotion. And so Paul came in and actually completely dominated Eric Barak. And Paul, we didn't know Paul very much, and he's a very charismatic person and very enthusiastic, and he was speaking to the crowd. And so yeah, we'd love to build around Paul and guys like Vlad, and who knows, maybe down the road these guys will meet.
Well, yeah, and you got a lot of other talent too. Alex Garcia, Aubin Mercier seems like a real up and comer.
Olivier Aubin-Mercier is the best kept secret in Canada. This guy is so talented. This guy was international level judo practitioner, but such a professional and very good on his feet. His jiu-jitsu is outstanding. Very strong wrestler. I mean, we have to take it easy with this guy because he's very young in age and his talent exceeds his experience. But certainly, I think he's a name to look out for, and I'm pretty sure this guy will make it to the top.
Yeah. So when are we going to see some of these big names next? Like one of the biggest amount of emails I get is, what's happening with Ringside. You mentioned your competition. Have you kind of like been laying low now, hiding away, or when are we going to see a show?
Well, I'll be very honest, and I've always been very honest. I mean, our competition is very, very aggressive, and I was posting a bit of things on the internet, and they were kind of grabbing onto that and announcing it before us and breaking the news, and it was difficult. I'm not from the television and internet milieu, and so we were kind of lacking in that area. So we've taken a step where instead of announcing stuff that won't really pan out and rumors, and so we try to have concrete stuff. Right now our next show should be early this summer, but when we went to renew our license, there are new procedures now. It's taking a bit more time, so we're not going to announce a show, although we do have a deposit on the venue for 2 dates. We're not going to announce a show before we have our license in our hands, which should happen sometime this week. And so yeah, we're really excited. I mean, we have the card is already pretty much set.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that. I mean, obviously, Mike Ritchie's going to be fighting for the belt again. Mike is such a tremendous athlete, and his focus now is totally on MMA. He's totally changed guy, and not that he wasn't before, but he was younger and he had some distractions. But right now, this guy's so focused and he knows where he's going. And so, yeah, Mike Ritchie's a guy to look out for, and he'll definitely be headlining the next Ringside event.
Yeah, with the commission, you've had problems with
Yes.
getting licensed. Like you're one of the best corners in Canada, and one of the best hand tapers in Canada.
Thank you.
And yet you can't do this from your own province. Is that affecting Ringside's ability to get shows?
Well, according to Michel Lamennais, the head of the commission there, apparently has no bearing on it. But I mean, I've learned to distrust not Michel as a person, but the régie, the commission there in Quebec. I mean, it's a very weird situation where I do this full time now, and for the last 4 or 5 years. And I mean, my record is spotless, and I think my reputation is pretty intact.
Absolutely.
So for me not having a license, what they would tell you is that I could apply for a license and I would have to go in front of a board. And when Steve Claveau did that to get his license back, they painted him as a bad person in a newspaper. And I mean, my family's been through a bunch of turmoil in my younger years, and I don't really want to put my mom through that. So kind of personal issues, but it's tough in Quebec. It's tough. You sometimes you get the perception that the Quebec government and the Quebec Commission certainly are not in love with MMA, and make it very difficult sometimes for us to promote shows and for us to do our job as coaches. And I mean, it's no secret that the UFC aren't really happy coming to Montreal anymore, and it's obvious by the fact that they're not coming. They might be coming one more time, but my insiders tell me that might be the last time. I mean, they have major problems getting along with the Régie sometimes in Montreal. And I mean, and I want to say this, and I want to be perfectly clear. When I go to shows in Montreal, the guys on the floor, the guys running the shows from the Régie are tremendous people. They're very nice with us. I can't name one name that has been not very nice to me. They let me in the back, wrap hands. I mean, I don't have a license. I'm not suspended. I don't have a license. Yep. And but they're always been, from Michel Lamennais down the road to every guy wearing a blue jacket, they're all very nice. But I think the people that are running the show behind the scenes don't really know much about the sport, and probably, I mean, I don't know what their motivation is, but it's certainly not helping the sport in Quebec.
Well, you're truly a great guy. Met you a bit here, and around the country, you're known as a great cornerman, great trainer, and travesty that you can't do that in your home province. I'd like to thank you for your time. Wish David the best of luck and your team, and best of luck to Ringside. And I can't wait to hear when the show's announced next.
Well, I really appreciate it, Keith, and I appreciate the work you guys do for MMA in Canada. And without guys like you, I mean, we wouldn't be in the map all over the place. I mean, I have a fighter in the UK, Tom Kong Watson, that looks at Top MMA News Canada all the time to find out what's happening here, and he's doing really well. So, guys all over the place look at your site and appreciate it. So I appreciate it.